Hello, everyone out there, and thank you for joining us yet again on episode 2 of the O-Face podcast presented by the Orioles. I've got a esteemed guest here, Brett Spencer, for our second episode. Brett, how are you doing tonight?
Pete, I'm just happy to be here. The O-Face, getting into the wiffle season, second podcast. As many nights, we just did the scheduled podcast last night with Benware and Bogad, and looking forward to seeing what you got for me tonight. This O-Face podcast that I did listen to Sam's, and I was pleasantly surprised with the two of you.
Sam and I, we could talk wiffle all night. I'm sure we will as well. We're gonna keep you on your toes. You may not know what's coming, but I'm sure you'll have some wonderful insights. A little bit more about Brett here. Brett's entering his 19th season as the tied for second most amongst all-time players. Do you know who you're tied with, Sam or Brett?
I know now that you tweeted it, or someone tweeted it today. So I was looking at that. Gus and Mr. Host.
That is right. So you took a couple of years off in 2010 and 2011. What was up with that?
Yeah. So honestly, I only remember missing one season, and this is Sam. Like, Sam remembers everything about this league, for me too. So I let stuff go from my memory. Sam remembers. I even had to text him to see if we were on the same team one year. That was the one that you texted me about. It's you were with Sam one year. I thought it was Bacula or not, but texted Sam and he goes, "Yeah, dude, that was me, of course." It's I forget all this stuff. So I think one of the seasons I was in Colorado for the summer, and then I don't know what happened with the other one, honestly. I'm not sure. So
yeah, I missed one of those with you, being at Mizzou for the summer. Looking back, probably wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't want to miss out another year. But
just harder to stay in the game when we were younger, obviously, because of the longer seasons.
Yep, that's right. So good move to Memorial Day, and we've got many years ahead of us, much to many people think we don't, but we will. Another fun fact about Brett, he has tied for the second most championships in his league's history. Do you know who you're tied with, Brett?
Scott Poley.
That is right. You were.
I think Scott got his first one with me, which I might be incorrect about that. You have to look back, but Scott. We were talking about that after the last game, actually, because he was, obviously the Yankees took down the Orioles in the championship, and Scott said something after the game, nothing like bad, but he was like, "All right, we're tied. Look at us," and then there's something like, "All right, we're going for Matter now."
Yeah, he's got 3 from pre-franchise era. Yeah, let's put Brett and Scott on a team. How's that going to end? What a great idea. Maybe much was not known about Scott at that point, but we know now.
It might have been his rookie year. I'm not sure, but we'd have to look back.
Yeah. And lastly, there's a lot to say about Brett. He's probably the MVP of the Orioles last year. Second, top 2 pitcher, top 4 MVP. And no errors in the field, but also no assists. What's up with that? Why no assists, Brett?
Oh, Pete, man, I'm selfish. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
I want everything for myself. I'm a stats person. I don't want to make you guys feel good. I just want to get stats. That's it.
Everyone understands that. So we're going to dive into episode 2 of the O-Face. First episode with Sam. Got some good reviews. People, I know a lot of people felt like we didn't adequately explain, really what is an O-Face and what does that mean? So, I'd say in wiffle ball, there's periods of tremendous effort, pain, stress, sweat, tears, blood, all that. And sometimes it can culminate in a euphoric type feeling of relief, satisfaction, personal achievement, you name it. And we experience many of those moments. Some good O-Faces, some of those. So let's dive right into that, starting, on a positive note. They gave this one to Sam, had to do it again, because this guy is the catalyst of the movement, and we would not have expected to blank the Rockies like this, one of your former teams, of which you have a few. But, you know, we 20-0. The top of the first was 10 minutes long. We put up 7 runs, and Brett ended up throwing a complete game shutout. So before we get into Brett's take, you know, you might be saying, wow, complete game shutout against Rockies. That is impressive. How does that happen? Well, I got one piece to let you know just how that started at the bottom of the first.
But you got Peter out in right field, and right as I say that, oh wow, what a play by Peter! What a play! Peter saves a home run, knocking it back in. Smart. I mean, they're smart, they're savvy, they're old. That's what you're going to get from the Orioles. Yeah, you know,
What do you think, Brett?
They're smart, they're savvy, they're old. I mean, Benware said it pretty well. I mean, you guys focused on it in the first podcast a little bit with Sam stealing bases and being older, smarter, and savvier. Peter did it. Pete did it. And the MVP, he had his thinking cap on right there. I like it. I appreciate it.
We were, as teammates, you know, we would do anything for each other. We'd go over the fence and whatever else, you know, we need to do. That's, you know, wasn't all happiness. We had some sad moments. Just a couple, really, maybe one. Losing the Yanks in the championship. I mean, nobody would have predicted that it'd be 23-19 when you have 2 of the best pitchers pitching the whole game. It's hard to remember specifically. It was pretty back and forth. We definitely had our chances, but you know, I haven't really watched the game since. Had we won, I'd probably be watching it daily on YouTube. We're gonna wait a bit and see revenge on the Yankees. I think
it was epic, and it was one of the all-time great games. And unfortunately, we were on the losing side. Oh my gosh, it blew my mind, the game. Like you said, Gus won Cy Wiffle and every other award in the world last year. But Cy Wiffle versus, I don't know if Sam was second or third, but he was in the top few. He had a better ERA than Gus in the regular season, I believe. But either way, you did not expect that game. And it was epic. It's season 20, the Skibby versus Skibby. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I mean, just the very end, you know, we were one branch away from winning, is what it is. Move on. Yeah. Try to win again.
You know, people think the NFL is scripted. They think that World Baseball Classic is scripted with how that ended. And you might think that our league's scripted too when you got Skibby versus Skibby in season 20. But let me tell you, folks, sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles.
I mean, that was the Trout and Ohtani World Baseball Classic. Like, that's the same thing, although it's even better. Skibby Wiffle Ball League was even bigger than that, I think.
Indeed. Well, let's get away from this one. Let's go into one that's really got us fired up, like the GOAT Tom Brady. My favorite game, hands down, was when we played the A's the second time. And we had Berg, Chris Whitehead, Rob. Andrew Light was in there a little bit, but, you know, they were announcing the game, just comedy the whole time. You know, the good thing for us is that the guys, we know them well. We're in that old group. They were respecting of us. I think they were kind of going after all the people they didn't know, the younger, trying to get in their heads a little bit. A lot of good commentary from the game. I think it kind of pumped us up a little bit because we put on just an amazing show and really had me feeling like Tom Brady in those car commercials, you know, Hurts, let's go, right? What do you think?
Yeah, you said it very well. The veterans coming back, the retirees coming back is always a good time, especially for us old folk who are been around for a while. But they slot right in. Like, I love the alumni game last year. I know it was kind of a bore to most of the younger kids, but respect your elders. Like, come on. But
true.
Having Rob, you know, Rob's obnoxious and funny and goofy, and Andy and Whitehead and all those guys back, and Andrew. I was I had a great time, and listening to them, like, that's one of the games you want to go back and rewatch because they're funny to listen to. Some of the other games that don't have commentary, you don't enjoy as much, even if they're better games. They made some astute observations, so I do appreciate that. But yeah, playing the Athletics are always a good time, and having them announce after a day of drinking makes it all the better.
Agree. The games with people at the booth are a joy to watch. And we'll see the A's again twice this year, much like the Astros, same old division. And I told Sam, I think you want to bring those guys back, and we'll pay for the beer, and we'll do whatever we can to entice them.
100%. I think we can entice them with, a case of beer. No problem.
Right. So we're gonna move into our last O-Face. Definitely my favorite, because there's a lot of numbers to break down here. Brett had his best season in quite some time, and it might just been the orange and black. Looks good on him. But we'll let. There was a tweet from our statistical analysis team recently, and it does a good picture of Brett's performance last year compared to his typical first pitch strike era season. Home run rate way up, average up nearly a third, OPS up 58%, and his RBI doubled his previous career high. And that third batting spot just really killed it for the team, and be looking forward to seeing it. It's tough when you have MVP contenders. I think people are putting Sam and Brett in the category together, so it's going to be hard to see if one of those guys can be like a Gus or a Spencer of those types. But should be an interesting battle. Brett, what do you think about your performance? Did you eat differently? Did you sleep better? What made you tick?
I mean, I do feel like, I wouldn't say like anything was that different. I think with the Rockies, we batted 5. So looking back, the Cardinals, Rockies, Expos, Cardinals were Sam and me. And really, we just never found the third and the fourth guy that we could kind of constantly rely on. And then the Rockies, we batted 5. It's harder to get into a groove. You don't see the pitcher as much. Expos, I think the ABs that I got in the Orioles versus the Expos was different. So getting more ABs, you get the repetition. And then batting third, like I batted first for the Expos, I believe most of the time, just to get more ABs. But having people on in front of you and having PG, who I will come out and say, I think he probably should have won that MVP, but having a probable MVP or a potential MVP behind you, having someone who's Sam Skibby is one of the all-time greatest players in the league, and then having a person at the top of the order who's also won an MVP, it takes pressure off. It's a little easier. But I think I got way more reps, and you got to see the pitcher more often. So one of those things. Love playing with all the other teams. It's just different experience this year, last year, and looking forward to trying to do it again.
Yeah, no, we definitely took a lot of walks as a team, and I think we all I would gladly take a walk and get on base and let the next guy come in and maybe see some better pitches. So the offense was tremendous, and I think, the historians of the league know that the MVP award may as well be named the Brett Spencer Award, because I think you won the first 6 years and you were co-MVP the 7th year. And it's been quiet for Brett since then. People think of you as the Top Gun pitcher guy, but now they're going to have to think of you as Gus Ohtani,
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it was a different game when we were younger. But yeah, it was. We didn't even have a strike zone for the fucking first 3 years or something, and we had a chair for a while. So, but yeah, it was nice to come back and have a good year, and especially kind of propel us into the playoffs and into the championship. So yeah.
And what's really interesting about your pitching last year is So yeah, I think number 2, Cy Wiffle, maybe number 3, depends how you look at it. But in your first pitch strike era of those since 2017, you had your highest ERA, 6.92, highest walk count, lowest strikeout rate, most hits and homers allowed, and you still finished second in Cy Wiffle. So your floor is very high, and those metrics probably improve and you stay in the contention. So
yeah, maybe a little bit of that is name bias, but yeah, those are not great stats. But you know, my stuff plays recently. Sam has the higher strikeout probability. I mean, obviously he has like 100 more strikeouts than the next person at least in the career. But yeah, pitch to contact and fielding was very good behind me.
Yeah, and you had a lot of balls hit right back to you, which I noticed from all the film analysis that we do on Fridays.
It's the goes straight down. I mean, it's just the way the pitch comes in. It comes straight down. They hit it basically into the ground, right back to me, or right to left field, basically. So,
right. Well, that's it for this. We're going to move into what we call the O categories. Play a few games here. Brett, category is called Orange You Glad. Want you to talk about something that you're glad that happened early on in your life or in the formation of this league that's really set the stage for where we are right now.
Okay. Okay. So Sam, some of them are different than what you had for Sam. So Sam had Orange You Glad, and he said, I watched this the other night, he said that the 2012 tournament that we went to, NWLA, was the one that he really was happy about because it propelled us to where we came to. But going even earlier, I'll go even earlier and thank our parents. Like, all the stuff that had to happen to put us in the same neighborhood, the same place, I think it's unbelievable. I'm orange. I'm glad that Sam's parents bought that house, and orange, I'm glad that the Weed Tuckers and the Lights, bought their houses in the neighborhood down the street. And orange, I'm glad my dad and mom bought their house, and he was a coach for baseball where me, Andrew, Sam, and Kevin played together. And orange, I'm glad we're sitting on that little brick thing, and we're just like, hey, what are we gonna do this summer? Start a wiffle ball league and just play for the season and see how it goes for the summer, just for something to do. But yeah, going back to the even earlier and just the little intricacies that got us here it's kind of neat to think about.
It's a crazy butterfly effect type thing. I mean, we're all glad that Sam was born into this world. So we're glad parents were born. We're glad, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm glad that Andrew is my brother, and John, that kind of helped me get into the league.
Yeah.
So thanks, family. We love you, all of you. We're going to move on to something sexier, though, Brett. This one's called OnlyFans. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's kind of this risque site where people can kind of pour themselves out for money.
I have heard. I have heard that. I've
never heard it.
I've never seen anything on it. I've just heard rumors, so I don't know what you're talking
about. So, which active player do you think is most likely to have a side hustle and creating some content for themselves? If you want to elaborate on who you think that is and what you think they're putting out there, basically. Okay, so this one came to me as you asked. Like I said, you have some categories the same, some different. So when you asked Sam this one instantly came to me. I think it's Sam. I think it's him himself, and it's wiffle ball content related. You know how much he loves content. Yeah. Content. We got to put out content. What can we do for this content? And what he's doing with the Instagram is awesome, and all the things are lined up. It's so cool. But I think he's got a secret OnlyFans wiffle ball content. He paints his things wiffle balls, or he uses a bat. Like there's the mind races with what Sam could be doing wiffle ball related and behind the scenes, trying to raise money for this league.
which I'm sure he puts it all to the league. So Sam Skibby, OnlyFans, wiffle ball. Yeah.
No, even when I asked Sam the question, a little part of me was wondering if he's going to say himself, but I don't think he wants us to know about this page yet. So
what's his handle? What's Sam Skibby's handle on OnlyFans?
It's Commish Balls 8, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah. So Sam, that's a great answer. I don't know if we'll be able to top that in any future podcast, but we'll try. Third category is called On the Ropes. This one might feel a little rude or mean, but gonna need you to pick a team that you think is trending down, team that is not true playoff contender, and over the next few years you don't. It's one team that you would not bet on in the next few years. Who you picking and for what reasons?
Okay, so so if you had asked me this like 2 weeks ago, and they won't like this, but they'll like the reasoning, I would probably have said the Expos, because they don't. Winning is not the end all be all. It's the weekend, and I know it is for everyone, but they have the thought behind it of, we just won a championship not that long ago. We want to win. Yeah, it'd be great, but having fun is way more important. So I would say the Expos, but then they drafted Sam, so they're pushing to get a little bit better. Although I don't know how they'll utilize them, so we'll see. But I would probably say at this point, the A's. Unfortunately, I feel like everyone else is like set after last year, so the A's probably come to mind in the sense that they signed Evan Kuo, right? Kuo, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he'll get better. And I think the A's, we know what, Paul, Steve, Alex Heck, and Vorbeck is a kind of mystery, and who knows what Josh Rogers is going to get an opportunity to do. But I'd say the A's right now. I wouldn't bet on them versus the Yankees or the Twins or hopefully the O's this year.
Yeah, the A's will be without Mike Carl this year. He'd missed a few years of the past 3, but Josh will be back more healthier than he was last year. They just always seem to kind of max out at that 4 win total. So we'll see. We'll see him twice. And I think it's hard to say Rockies because people think last year was a fluke and was not the true Rocky team. But for our next segment, we're going to go into 2 of these teams that you mentioned, 2 teams that you used to play for, the Rockies and the Expos. I've got their Vegas win projections pulled up, and I want to see if you're feeling the over or the under. So the Rockies win total set at 3.5. Last year they were 2-8. So clearly Vegas is pricing in some improvement. But what do you think? Rockies over, under 3.5 wins?
So, and not to give much away, but we did talk a little bit about some predictions over under of the SWBL podcast that I was on last night, which is the schedule one, which is releasing, I think, tomorrow on the 24th.
Nice.
At this point would be in the past, so people have already watched us. But either way, right? Is that right? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, I would say the over. I know their division stuff. I think it's the Twins and the White Sox and the Rockies. But I think they bring back Grant, who's like the heart and soul. Grant, younger brother. I love Grant to death. He's awesome. And then Adam and Jason will get more time. I think both of them will get more time pitching. And Blake has a shorter leash, I think, for BK and Grant, and just giving ABs to people who can, help them. It's going to be tough. I think they take 1 of 2 from the White Sox, 1 of 2 from the Twins, maybe, and then against, the A's and the Expos, what they do there. But I take them at the over of the 3.5.
That's some good logic used there. I mean, Blake should improve. He's been kind of sliding down the top 20, top 21 countdown the few years. BK did terrible last year, so he's going to do a lot better. And I think a few years ago, Kevin Pulley had a real bad year, and then look at Kevin Pulley last year. So anything can happen. But the Expos, they're
did say that they're going to practice beforehand this year, which they haven't done in the past. So I do think that'll help a little bit too.
That'll help. That should help. Expos are set at 1.5 wins. A little lower. That's the lowest on the board, of course. What do you think on that one?
I mean, after last year, I think that's a fair over/under. I think they go over. I think they get 2, at least. I wouldn't be surprised if they got 3. I'd be surprised if they got 5. I feel like 5 is like the ceiling. But with Jimmy and Sam, who's a really, underrated player. I mean, people don't know who he is from MoIF, but a very good hitter. He was in the summer league, won a championship with Spencer and met her, I believe, on the pesky pine trees. So, and Jeremy should improve. Their lineup is way better if they slot Sam in. So I'd say the over. I'd put them at 3-7.
All right. It's a good pick. It is interesting talking about teams like the Rockies, Expos, having played so poorly last year and seem to be turning down after really being solid franchises at points, especially the Rockies. But, they do have something in common, and they don't have Brett Spencer anymore. So maybe I'm just going to say that. Brett doesn't need to agree or disagree, but that's me. So we'll move into our next segment here called Pick 4 Old Timers. As many of you know, Brett was one of the original 8 in season 1 back in 2003. So, Brett, if you could pick a squad of 5, including yourself, of course, from that initial list of season 1 players that you think can compete for a title right now, who are you picking and what's your lineup looking like?
Okay. Oh, man. So, and you said compete for a title. I feel like that'd be hard with 5 guys from the OG era.
It definitely will. Yeah.
Just because there are, I mean, the only ones that I can think of that still play are me and Sam and John. And John doesn't play a ton. He got some KBs last time. So, yeah, I would say me and Sam to kind of start out, and there you go, starting pitcher, left fielder, and then I would go with Bertram because he was just. I'd have to look back at the number of seasons he played, but his stats are just so dominant, and I don't feel like people truly understood like what he did with a bat. Like it was so cool to see. So, and John can still knock it, so pop him in there, and then this one's probably a toss up between your brother Andrew Light and Ken Shippey. And I think Andrew had a little bit better stats, but I think Ken's average was like, I think he has the highest average in the league's history. Obviously, taking into account he only played a couple seasons, and it was before we had a strike zone, and there was no walks, and there was no pitcher poison. So take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, yeah, slide Andrew in there, slide Ken Shippey in there. That's not a bad team. I'd take that team. I don't know. We could compete.
Yeah, I think you're making the best with what you got. And for your team name, you've chosen the Angels.
Yeah.
Is that because you guys are all so old and you're going to die soon?
That's exactly where my mind went.
Yeah.
It was that we were, near our deathbeds. So. Well,
I would be interested to see what Kevin Pulley can do with a logo like that. He could probably make some magic happen.
Yeah. I would love to see the rest of like the leagues. There's still 12 teams that haven't been used, but it'd be cool if I know Kevin's got way too much going on, but that'd be awesome just to see him mock up what an logo would be, or all the other stuff that they've got available.
That is right. Well, we're gonna play this game once more, and hey, that team could win. Sure.
I mean, me and Sam pitching. I feel like we're doing what the Orioles are doing now, is pitching well, and if Bertram can hit, we can go.
That's right.
John's good right fielder. Who knows?
Who knows? So this next one, always like to ask people to pick a team of 5 if you're captaining a franchise, but you got to pick all people you haven't played with yet in your career. And so you're on your 4th franchise era team. You were around for nearly all of the seasons prior, so you've played with a lot of guys. You might have a slimmer list than most, but create your all-star team, and what's that going to look like?
A slimmer list than just about anyone other than probably Sam. And I even tried to exclude some of the like summer league guys I played with. Like I could have picked like Jimmy Stout or Cam Smith, who I had a great time playing with when we did summer league, but I stuck with people that I've just specifically never been on an SWBL team with.
Yes.
So starting out, I think just instantaneously is Metter. He is one of the all-time greats. I mean, if not, he's the best franchise era player so far. There's probably no disputing any of that. He's got 6 championships in I don't know how many years, but his hands are platinum. So at this point, they're too heavy to like lift around. But I like Metter a lot. We got to know each other a little bit more recently, so I'm pumped. I'd play with Metter, and then I'd go with his teammate Bogad, who is just a nightmare at the plate, and I like him too. He's a good guy. So then I'll probably slot myself in there and maybe throw as well. And then one of the guys that you mentioned earlier, he had such a great year, Kevin Poley. I'd put him in right field because, man, he had an outstanding year last year. He was so good. My last guy is Paul Castellano because he's been around for a long time. I've always wanted to play with him. He's a awesome guy, Godfather. Love him. So I think that team is 4 guys that I've never played with. I think that team's pretty decent, pretty good. You got some MVPs. You got some gold gloves. You got some platinum hands. Cy Wiffle. So I selected the Rangers because those were the teams that we were kind of throwing around before the O's that we landed on those. I mean, there was a long discussion. It took us a while to land on the O's, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It just, it had to feel right. It had to be perfect. And once we saw some mock draft uniforms, I think it all, just came together.
Yeah, I think the orange kind of works out well.
Yeah, but I don't think, on this team, I don't think you're going to have a problem getting Spencer to wear one of those hats. But I don't think Chris Metter will. He might not even wear, your uniforms. So,
yeah, I'll have to just, I don't know. Maybe not a hat guy, but we'll figure out something as a Ranger for him.
Well, thanks for playing, Brett. Last bonus slide before we go. As I sometimes stumble around the website, I found a page that I never knew existed. Talking about the blur, the field, some nice pictures, and a lot of the history of what's really gone into it. You've been around for a lot of this and probably helped with some of the landscaping. What are some favorite memories that you have?
I'm looking at the slide now. Oh my gosh.
You can tell Sam spent some time on this.
This field history is ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, I mean what Ann, so like the painting stuff that Ann did is so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. It's just awesome. Thinking about it, thinking back on it, man, the beginning obviously was like ingrained in my memory. We had my dad take us up to Home Depot and get orange construction fence and wooden stakes that we put into the ground as the outfield fence. And I don't know what the dimensions were back then. I don't think they were as long as they are now. We were in middle school and obviously way weaker, but and obviously less smarter, but also way more young and energetic. But I remember that specifically. I remember the wooden stakes were, looking back on it, what an awful idea. And then eventually we had metal stakes that like you'd go into the wall and like you'd have this big ass scrape. Like, the field, it's got, like the website says, it's got its own history. It's awesome. Played without a pool at the beginning. There's no base paths really, no bushes. I mean, all that stuff. No backstop. It at the very beginning, just thinking back on it, it was us and a couple bases, and then the orange construction fence. So it's cool to think of how we've gotten here with all the changes and everything. We didn't even have a strike zone for a while. I already said that, but yeah, it's cool. I think next thing is talking Kay into that. I don't know.
Party porch.
Did I give that away? Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's a well-known, the right field party porch.
Everybody wants party porch.
I think it'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. Sam said Kevin, the head groundskeeper, Kevin Skibby's already got plans for it. So he's already drawn them up. He knows what's going to be.
We've come a long way. And, I always hope that it just takes one or two of us to get rich and be able to invest back into the community and really do some bleachers, a lazy river. I mean, your imagination can run wild on what we can do.
Yeah, Blake specifically does what that moat on the outside of the center field wall.
Yes.
So I think I'm throwing this out here now that if that house, if they decide to ever sell it and Sam doesn't want to purchase it and Gus isn't moving back, I think the league just goes in and pays off the mortgage and keeps it, and we can do whatever we want with it.
There's 7-8 front office guys, put a couple bunk beds in each bedroom, and we'll be good.
Oh man.
That'd be fun.
It'd be dangerous.
Well, Brett, that takes us to the end. We are here for the final word. One last face to let the people see, but what are your final parting thoughts as you wrap up the podcast and prepare for season 21?
Man, obviously, I'm excited, and this was fun. Like, it's just cool to shoot the shit a little bit with you and Cal. Like, I appreciate him hopping on because he's such a big O's fan. But looking forward to this next season. I think everyone being set. Obviously, last year was a big changes. The O's first year, people jumping ship, people moving around, a lot of draft picks. This year, everyone was set. So I think everyone thinks they know where people lie. They think, going to say what most people are assuming is that obviously the O's, Yankees, and Twins have a playoff spot, and the Marlins have something to prove again, and the White Sox underperformed. They should be better. The Rockies had a bad year, and the A's had a bad year, and the Expos had a bad year. How are they going to do it? There's just no telling. Like, it's 10 games. Like, it's only 10 games. So you lose 2 that you're not supposed to lose, then you lose 2 or 3 to good teams, you're in trouble. So, I don't even know what to think about it. I'm ready to go. I'm in the wiffle ball spirit right now.
Yeah, it's usually pretty quiet through the rest of the year after Memorial Day, but once the calendar turns, people get a little more excited, a little more podcasts.
Benware said there's like 20, like in addition to the O faces. I think there's like 20 coming out from now until the beginning of the season.
Sam is the content king and Benware is the podcast king.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just happy to be a part of it. In our next episode of the O-Face, episode 3, we will have Patrick Gaddy, MVPG, sitting down with us, the former longtime Brewer, coming in his second year as an Oriole, and one of three Orioles still searching for that first franchise era championship that I'm sure people will love to talk about. So looking forward to having PG. Then we'll get with John, the captain. And then for episode 5, we're gonna get the whole flock together, and we're gonna have some good activities to do on a group podcast right before opening day.
Forward to it.
Well, thanks, Brett. Hope you have a wonderful evening. And for listeners out there, thanks for listening and watching us
Thanks, Pete.
on this podcast. See you guys.
Thanks, Cal.
See you, Cal.